Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom. How's it going?
Tony, we are just days away from a number 1 versus number 2 football game. Second one this season for Ohio State. Doesn't come around very often. Boy, Ryan Day, would you describe Ryan Day as like real tense, nervous, obvious, big game on deck? I mean, real tense vibes inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center right now?
No, not necessarily. There was some laughing, some smiling. I thought it was interesting that he wanted to move on from the Michigan game. Mm-hmm. They basked on the plane, I think, and then it was like, okay.
They got a little extra basking time thanks to the weather.
Right, and so now you turn the page and move on to Indiana and the Big Ten Championship game. Of course, media, we cannot move on just quite yet, so there are some questions.
Ryan, my news cycle,
right,
please.
Exactly. So I did want to be like, with respect to the fact that you have moved on, we do still have some questions. I think one of the better exchanges was the question and answer regarding the communications going down, and it went down in the second half. Like we were not aware of that in the press box. I don't know if you were aware of it on the field. They went down, and the good thing is they had a plan, because Ryan Day said he had an inkling that this was going to happen, so they prepared on Friday for it. They had some wristbands and some signals, and then Doug LeMaurice was like, just shoots out like, "What do you mean inkling?" And then he's like, "Well, he's like,
just sort of
things are crazy," and then he winks. Yeah, basically that things can sometimes happen. Wink, wink.
Yeah,
and they were ready for it. They prepared on Friday, and he said maybe my assistants were a little like, "Don't you think you're being paranoid?"
Yeah,
and then I bet. I wonder if on the sideline while all of this is going on, he's like, I told you.
Yeah, it was, he framed it as sort of, you're just trying to prepare for every possible eventuality. But, it's like maybe, I don't know. But, possibly this is like when you go on the road and like, oh, no hot water at the team hotel this morning. Or, oh boy, these fire alarms, son of a gun, they keep going off in the middle of the night. Sometimes things happen on the road. You wouldn't want to speculate as to how or why these things happen, but sometimes these things happen on the road. And, when it's your bags are getting searched by security a little more than normal, that is big and a big deal. And sometimes these things just happen.
And now it becomes lore that this was done. It's up there with it's nothing like the 2004 drug-sniffing dogs that Jim Tressel had delay the Michigan bus, where as they're coming off the bus, it's like the bomb-sniffing dogs are like...
How high does this go? All the way to the office of the Lieutenant Governor.
And Lloyd Carr was very unhappy about that. He said, so after the game, you lost by multiple scores, and he still wanted to talk about the classlessness of what he had just witnessed and been a part of. There are other legendary things that have gone on in this rivalry decades, and you can go a long way back. And I think this, whether it's weather or sabotage, as Will Shatner would say, it becomes part of the history of this game, and then it gets cemented as sabotage.
How would the Beastie Boys say it?
Well, they would. No, I can't do it right now. I can't get the voice up high enough without practicing my singing for a little while.
With sunglasses and mustaches is the
Correct.
Answer. Yes. Great music video. You kids. Well, first I have to explain what a music video is. Okay, so there was a channel called MTV. We don't have time for that. Let's talk. We have to talk about the game that's coming up on Saturday. And, this is a game where there's a lot on the line. Obviously, Big Ten Championship. Who's going to be the number 1 team going into the playoff? Who's going to be in the Rose Bowl? All of that's on the line. We will have the College Football Playoff Rankings Reveal show coming up on Tuesday evening. We'll do our live show that starts right at about 7 o'clock. That's when the rankings come out. I have a suspicion that I know who the top 2 teams are going to be, and I have a suspicion that the conversation will relatively quickly turn to, let's talk about the game those 2 teams are playing. So you can join us Tuesday evening on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle, to talk about all of that fun stuff. But one of the other things that's on the line this weekend And it's not officially on the line, but also, let's be grown-ups about this. One of the things that's on the line this weekend is the Heisman Trophy, because you got Julian Sayin, you got Fernando Mendoza, two guys who are probably 1-2 in some order for the Heisman Trophy. And, some of the conference awards will probably come out before then, and those guys are going to be sort of head-to-head for one of those as well. But this is a game where on Saturday, I have a feeling whoever is getting confetti rained down on them and having Joel Klatt holding a microphone next to them on a podium is probably also going to get to talk to, I don't know, who's Reese Davis or Chris Fowler, who does the Heisman at this point? I don't know.
Not Desmond Howard.
Not Desmond Howard, no. So Desmond Howard probably won't have anything to say to whoever it is that is at the Heisman Trophy this weekend, or next weekend. But yeah, Ryan Day talked about the fact that, first of all, he had a really interesting story about his personal connection to the Heisman Trophy as a younger man, going to the 1999 ceremony, and it was like, I don't remember a New Hampshire quarterback being there, but he was there.
Yeah, his stepfather was a Heisman voter, so they took him on a trip to the Heisman ceremony that year. Ron Day, 1999.
Yep,
rushing for over 2,000 yards with the Wisconsin Badgers, and that dude was a load. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then got a football signed by a whole bunch of legends. He's not sure where the football is now. That's unfortunate. Maybe it's in the Nissan Heisman house and he doesn't know it. But yeah, so he's got a long history, and he's been there several times now as a coach, and will be there once again. He might be splitting time at tables. I don't know. We'll find out after this weekend how many finalists there will be. He did say he believes that the Heisman should go to the best player in America, not necessarily the guy with the most stats.
So he believes it should go to the player who the award givers themselves list as the person who should get it, rather than the best quarterback on a top 5 team?
That is correct.
Interesting.
Now, that being said, he was also asked, so who would you vote for? And he said, well, I'd vote for both of them, meaning Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin. And then he said, and Carnell Tate. And then, gosh, Caleb Downs is right there. And then, Arvell Reese. And I think that's where he stopped. And I wanted to be like, so no Caden Curry or Caden McDonald? Is this
disrespect?
Do you have something to say for yourself about that? But it will be interesting. I just got an email from Bet Online that right now Diego Pavia is the favorite after some games he's had. Other places, all of the FanDuels and DraftKings still have it, Mendoza and Sayin. But we've been saying it for 5 or 6 weeks. If these two teams are 1-2 in this game, then the winner of that is very likely going to be, or not very likely, will be the winner of the Heisman. Now, that assumes they play reasonably well, but if you're going to win the game, your quarterback's probably going to play reasonably well.
Yeah, I do think there's a possibility this ends up a little bit of a lower scoring game. Like, I don't think Indiana's putting up 40 points on this Ohio State defense, but if this game ends up 30-something to 20-something, and your quarterback doesn't have a bunch of turnovers, you're probably winning yourself some votes this weekend. And narratively, should that matter? But no, not necessarily. But this is the way the thing works. So this is ideally, Tony, you throw an interception early to create some adversity for yourself. I have been told that's very helpful.
Well,
and then you heroically pull everyone's bacon out of the fire at the very end of the game.
I do think it's a concern that there is one major Southern player, and that is Diego Pavia, since Ty Simpson has bowed out, and that you're going to have a large patch of the country's voters voting deep south and not looking much to the north. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if you have whoever is the most likely, I'm going to put them third. Just to make sure that, I still want them on my card. I still want to show, I voted for him, but I don't want to get him any second place votes. We'll see how it goes. I just think if you've got the power of the entire voting South, it might be something to watch.
That's a lot of tobacco juice stained ballots for sure.
Yes.
It is people in the South being, overly regional about the sport, that's not the college football I know and love, Tony.
It just means more, Tom, as we know. This game against Indiana means more, and there's almost like this, but why? You're all going to the playoffs. Ryan, why does this game mean more? Like, why does it mean something? Like, why does it mean a lot? Why do you want to win it? And it's something we always talk about. It's one of the goals None of these guys on this team have ever done it.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Day wants them to experience what it is like to win a Big Ten championship. I remember their last one, but that was probably very subdued. The one before that in 2019, and even when Ryan Day was an assistant, I think it would have been 2017 when they won it, and just seeing like how happy he was in his first Big Ten championship win, and how the coaches are always very, very excited. And so I don't see any like, well, we'll play our starters 2 quarters and then like there's none of that. Not that there would be, but this is a very, very important game for Ryan Day and the team. It will also help keep the routine, I think, which is also plays into that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that might be sort of low key. A real important part of this is with as much as they've talked about just kind of keeping the routine and staying in the rhythm of the season, you get another week where you don't have that long time off. I was watching, it was one of those things that popped up as like, oh, on this date, 19 years ago, it was the Ohio State-Michigan game. That game was for 2006. That was a 1-2 game. That game was on November 18th. And then one of the things that really probably screwed up Ohio State's rhythm was you're off from November 18th until January, whatever it was, 4th or 7th or whatever it was. That's a real long break. You saw some of the teams last year that had the long break and didn't necessarily respond to that real well. So if you've got another week where you can sort of be in rhythm, that can only help. But yeah, to your point, the team goals, the stated team goals, we talk about these all the time. Number 1, beat Michigan. Okay, check mark. Number 2, win the Big Ten. That's what's on the line this weekend. And then number 3, win the national championship. They could do all 3 of those in one calendar year, not in the same season, but in the same calendar year. That would probably be, that would be something that they would probably enjoy quite a bit. And as you said, this is something that they haven't done. This is, I'm sure, something that they've watched on TV and thought, I'm sure there has been some FOMO the last couple of years that they've been sitting at home because they didn't handle task number 1 on that list. So you can't have FOMO and then when you get there go, I don't really want to be here. Like it feels like this is something that Ohio State fans may be sort of looking longer term, big picture. The people in the building, this is not, you're going to play an 8-4 Purdue team or, this is not the days of the old Big Ten West. This is number 1 versus number 2. These guys are insane competitors. They're not going to look at this and go like, who cares? We'll lose this one. It'll be fine. We'll get them back later.
And Indiana's coming into this game knowing last year they were outclassed and a little bit intimidated, and they want to show that is not true anymore. There is no longer an underdog mentality. Chris Ignetti has gotten rid of that. They believe they should win every game. So they're coming into this game with that attitude. If you don't match that energy, you're going to get run over by that energy. So that's another, just out of respect to the opponent and fear of getting embarrassed, you better respect this game and be ready for it.
Well, and if you do get embarrassed, then there's a way you're playing on December 20th or 21st, whatever it is this year. They don't want to do that. They don't want to have that much rhythm to their season. They would like to not have to play an extra game. And they absolutely control their destiny. If they win this game, even if they lose this game close, either team, you're not dropping to 5 or 6 if you lose this game 27-24. If someone loses this game 38-3, Texas Tech wins their game, Georgia wins their game, you could absolutely see someone drop out, the loser drop out of the top 4, and then you got to play that first round game. And yeah, you're probably playing James Madison, Tulane, whoever it is. But then you got to play that game. And then you got, and then it's out of your control who you're playing after that, as opposed to win this game, handle your business. You're going to the Rose Bowl. You're playing the 8-9 winner, which is still going to be a good team. But, right now it looks like that was like Nebraska or Notre Dame and Oklahoma. So, someone like that. So it's going to be a good team, but not, last year they had to go, it was out of their control. They had to win a game at home, and then they had to go play the number 1 team, on the West Coast. So you can control your controllables right now, and that's something that they, is another thing that's going to make this an important weekend for them.
You say controllables, a couple of uncontrollables for opposing defenses, Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Ryan Day was asked how they're doing. He said they're better now than they were at this point last week, so just expect them to continue to do that. And in terms of what they bring to the offense, Tim May, our guy Tim May, brought up the nitrous that we talked about last week. Ryan Day said you can't use nitrous as your main fuel source, but you like to have it in there to kick it up a notch and to main the way that he does. So our Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, your nitrous. And there's a little bit of that with them, and they give everybody confidence that when they're out there, they impact everybody defensively. That's something that the defense has to be concerned about. And the offensive line is better for it. The running backs are better for it. Like, it's just, they help everybody out by having their presence out there, because one, you got to account for them. Two, they're better than the guys they're playing against. So the offensive line doesn't necessarily need to block as much. Like there are times where Ryan Day or, I think Ryan Day says you're running your routes against the pass rush. And so when you've got those guys running the routes, the pass rush isn't necessarily going to get there. We saw that against Michigan. The pass rush did not get there.
No, it really didn't. And that credit definitely goes largely to the offensive line, which has gotten so much better. I mean, so much better in terms of picking up twists and stunts and all that kind of stuff. Because beginning of the year, that was like a big, huge red flag. And then against Michigan, they did all sorts of stuff and didn't really get anywhere with it. Indiana, you were going to see a lot more of that from Indiana this week. And so that'll be, that's something that I think Ohio State fans maybe should find some encouragement in the improvement there. But Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, they put you in almost a no-lose situation. It's sort of like, the RPO in general. The idea is you can put the defense in a situation where they can never guess right. You're putting one guy in conflict, and either he comes up and you throw over him, or he goes back and you run in the space that he has vacated. That's kind of Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, where in most cases, they've said if they're one-on-one, they're open. So if they're one-on-one, you're going to see them take those shots downfield. They're not going to complete them all, but they're going to take those shots. And if they're not one-on-one and they've got two guys back there, well, then guess what? You've equated numbers in the run game, and then you have the opportunity to run the ball. There is not a right answer that's necessarily there, other than, hope it snows and it's windy. And that didn't work. And right after the game, Ryan Day talked about the fact, boy, if this was indoors, this would have been a different game. Well, guess what, Tony? This one's indoors. Yeah,
fast track, controlled environment. That will help Julian Sayin. He said, I know you guys may see the same quarterback, but when he looks at Julian Sayin from the quarterback he was at Texas to who he is now, he said, I see two different guys. You see the control in the huddle. The teammates all respect him. They understand that he has complete control, and that's one of the things that Will Howard had last year, and his teammates believed in him, and they saw it, and they understood that he knows everything that he needs to know to do the job. They know that now about Julian Sayin, so the confidence is high in him. There's no concern about his role or his ability to make the plays. So confidence, very, very good, but it's not like there's no cockiness. There's no overconfidence. It's just very businesslike.
Right. It's just, they always say, Saturday, they're going to celebrate this one tonight, and then it's on to the next one. Even for a Michigan game that has very clearly been circled on the calendar for 5 years now, they were on the plane, they celebrated, they got back, and they know this is not, again, 8-4 Northwestern, 8-4 Purdue, 9-3 Iowa, whose offense puts up 64 yards a game. Like, this is a real legitimate opponent. And we've started watching some of their games. You can find those on the Buckeye Weekly Podcast feed as well. We watched the Penn State game, the Iowa game, and the Oregon game already. I think the Oregon game goes up a little later on today. But this is a legitimate team that can stress Ohio State in a way that a lot of teams that they've played this year can't. So this is absolutely not a team. These guys are watching more film than we are. So they know this is a team that is going to stress them and I think they also probably have a sense that this is not going to be the usual home game in Indianapolis that you would sort of assume, because we could almost do a whole separate show on that this week. But Indiana fans had a head start to get these tickets. It is basically a home game for Indiana. It's an hour from campus. They had a head start on hotels and tickets and everything else. And I saw something that Ohio State had 24,000 requests for tickets, and they have 7,000 tickets they can fulfill. And the StubHub, if you were looking for pairs of tickets on StubHub, there are currently 600 pairs of tickets available, which is very low for this time of week. So and they are not cheap. It was like $400 to get in and $1,200 if you want to be kind of on the middle side of the field, and $1,200 and up. So
and Indiana is also playing a basketball game in Indianapolis that same day. So
yeah.
Hoosier fans are have already taken over the city.
Yeah. So this is going to be essentially a road game for Ohio State. A road game for Ohio State means there's going to be a quarter of the crowd as Ohio State fans at least, but there's going to be a lot of Indiana fans there for all of those reasons and probably more. So, that's just going to be more reason why you got to really be on your P's and Q's, not fall behind, keep yourself, take the crowd out of the game. You can take them. Lord knows we just saw that happen about 5 days ago. So,
and they're comfortable with the silent count. They did it against Michigan. Last thing for me, Ryan Day was asked if Davis Nigbinosin, his penalty on his celebration after the interception, did he get in trouble for that? And Ryan Day said we gave him a pass on that, but they did actually make everybody run like one extra, not a gasser, but just
sprint.
A sprint. And I probably was like, well, if you can sprint after an interception, you guys can all sprint. And so I'm sure it was just probably one of the happier sprints that they've had to do as a team.
That's great, because as a corner, you don't really mind, but that means all the offensive linemen and defensive linemen are probably a little annoyed at you, and you don't want the big dudes annoyed at you, so that's probably peer pressure and used in a positive way.
So that will do it from here, and we will be back again. We've got more stuff coming for you, as you guys know, so hit the bell to be notified. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done so. And also audio podcast platforms, search Buckeye Weekly, Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning, and find all of the preparation and discussion and coaching clips and player clips and all that stuff to get you ready for this game. And of course, we will be talking about this at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up, become a member. Say hello to us there on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. We'd love to see you there. So that will do it from here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all later.